Okay, here we are. This is your Adisseo Novak weather 30-day outlook now for the month of September. Now, I'm Tom Novak, by the way. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. All right, we like to take a look at, before we get into the 30-day outlook, we like to take a look at what has happened over the last 30 days. And what you're looking at now are the temperature anomalies or departures from normal over the United States. And as we were expecting, it was hot from New Mexico and Texas on east into Louisiana and even north into portions of the central plains states. Much warmer than normal temperatures there. They're going through a pretty serious drought now in Texas and Louisiana, and even portions of the upper Midwest and central and northern plains are going through drought right now. Meanwhile, cooler than average from the Great Lakes into the northeastern sections of the United States, even into the portions of the mid-Atlantic, and a little bit cooler than normal here out in the California, Nevada regions, so western sections of the United States. As far as southern Canada is concerned, it's been warm up there too, especially as you get into Alberta and British Columbia. And as we extended further east, temperatures were near or just a little bit above normal over Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and into the northern sections of the United States. But yes, drought conditions are also a problem here in southern Canada. But I got some good news for you, for those of you in southern Canada. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. This is the precipitation over the lower 48 of the United States here over the last 30 days, which would be August, and where plenty of precipitation over the northern portions of Central Rockies, portions of the northern plains, and then that would extend east and southeast into the eastern sections of the United States. Meanwhile, where they really need some rain now, desperately need rain, they have not gotten it here over the last couple of months, but especially in the last 30 days. Texas, portions of New Mexico, southern Oklahoma, Louisiana, southern Mississippi, they all need rain really bad there. And I just don't have much good news for you here in September. And also, rain is needed in portions of the upper Midwest, which would be Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin. A lot of these areas, western sections of the Corn Belt, need rain because we just haven't gotten enough of it here during the summer. Okay, let's get into that 30-day forecast. And these are the heights in the atmosphere at 20 to 25,000 feet. And of course, the red areas are an expanding atmosphere, which usually means a ridge of high pressure developing and sinking air often. And then blue areas are inclement weather, cooler air, and troughs that develop in the atmosphere. So look at what happens here in the United States. Now I'm going to freeze it here. This is the early portions of September now. And look at this ridge, a pretty strong ridge that is anchored over much of southern Canada and the eastern 2/3 of the United States. Now watch what happens as we go through at least the first half of September. That ridge, for the most part now, stays in place. Even as we get into the middle portions of September, look at this impressive ridge that continues to dominate portions of southern Canada and much of the eastern 2/3 of the United States. Meanwhile, trough, yes, this would be some inclement weather in the western sections of the United States and western Canada. So you can kind of get the picture. Here's our flow in our atmospheres, just like this, over the next, what looks to be at least 2 to 3 weeks here of September. That means cooler weather out west and probably warmer weather here over the eastern 2/3 of North America for the most part. Okay, let's look at the jet stream, the river of air, 30 to 35,000 feet. It's from the European Computer Model Guidance, and this gives you a real good picture of what the jet stream is doing. Most of the action is going to be up in southern Canada as the jet stream winds, for the most part now, stay north of the U.S.-Canadian border. So that means that that ridge of high pressure and heat is just going to be anchored over much of the United States, while southern Canada, and this is the good news for you for those of you up there, I think you're going to get some shower and thunderstorm activity periodically throughout the month of September, while much of the United States stays dry. As far as the temperatures were concerned in the lower layers of our atmosphere, look at the red areas. That's above the average, the anomalies average for this time of year in September. And look at this unbelievably warm air here that is dominating basically the eastern 2/3 of North America. The only cool areas are out west here as we get into the first week or two here of September, but that pattern kind of stays in place even as we get into middle September. Look at how the warm air stays anchored over much of the eastern 2/3 of the United States. We start to cool down a bit in southern Canada as we get into mid-September, and then the cool air, as I had mentioned, stays out west with that trough. And you can see that here when we look at the temperature forecast here for the next 30 days. With the jet stream staying near and north of the U.S.-Canadian border, that's going to keep the warm air in place from the Rocky Mountains on east to the eastern U.S. The only cool areas that I'm expecting here over the next 30 days are over the western and northwestern sections of the United States and western Canada, and then extending east into Alberta and portions of Saskatchewan. And that would put the what looks to be active weather here in this sections of North America. I'll show you that here in just a second here. Let's look at the precipitation here for the next 30 days. Yes, much above average precipitation, I think, for the northwestern U.S. and especially western Canada. And those showers and storms will likely traverse east into Saskatchewan and Manitoba and even into North Dakota and portions of the northern U.S. here as we go through the month of September. Meanwhile, almost the whole eastern two-thirds of the United States should likely have or experience below normal or even much below normal precipitation. So that is not good news for those in Texas and Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Arkansas, where they really need the rain. It just doesn't look like they're going to get much. And that's the same for parched areas of the central plains and portions of the northern plains and upper Midwest. They need rain there in the western Corn Belt. And I just don't think they're going to get much here in the month of September. And when we look at the drought index map over North America, the areas that really need the rain, which would be from southern Minnesota or Minnesota and Wisconsin on south to Texas, just doesn't look like we're going to get much rain here in this section of the United States. The soil moisture in the eastern U.S. is high. So even though there's not going to be much rain in the eastern U.S., soil moisture is still high. So we're not too worried about drought in the eastern U.S. Meanwhile, where they're going through a pretty severe drought in southern Canada, I am expecting showers and thunderstorms here periodically in the month of September, which is good news because that should help out with the drought conditions there in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and portions of Manitoba. And hopefully we can get some of this shower and thunderstorm activity to extend south into the lower 48 of the United States here as we go through September, but I'm just not optimistic for that. All right, that's your 30-day outlook from Adisseo and Novak Weather. Thank you for joining me. We will talk again in October.